Hi, this is Chris Walker. You know exactly what I'm looking at right now? I'm looking at a mistake. $1,000 mistake. See, right now in the store, under those perfect color-corrected demo lights, this screen looks like a portal to another dimension. It pops, it sings. You hand over your credit card, you feel great. But fast forward, give it 18 months, 2 years. That is the regret horizon. That's when the processor starts to choke on the latest YouTube update. You press the home button and the TV just thinks about it for 4 seconds. It hangs. Or maybe you finally got that PS5 Pro, you go to turn on the high frame rate mode, and you realize, wait a minute, this thing doesn't actually have 120 Hertz. It has a sticker that says motion rate 120, which, let's be honest, is a straight up lie. Or my personal favorite, it's Sunday afternoon, you're trying to watch the game, and you can't see the score because your window is reflecting so hard off the screen it looks like a mirror in a funhouse. We're seeing some absolute traps in the 55-inch aisle this year. 2026 is weird, man. You've got budget brands charging Sony prices and premium brands cutting corners on things they think you won't notice until the return window is closed. I don't have a sponsor for this video. I don't want one, because if a brand pays me, I can't tell you that their AI upscaling looks like a watercolor painting. So if you want the truth, the messy, expensive, uncomfortable truth about what to actually put in your living room, do me a solid. Hit that like button, subscribe. It keeps the lights on and it keeps me honest. You ready? Let's figure out which one of these things won't make you hate yourself in 2028. Here's the reality of the landscape right now. The 55-inch category is the bloodiest battleground in tech. It is the size where the technology finally got affordable enough for normal people, but it's also the size where manufacturers think they can trick you. They assume you won't notice if they swap a 120 Hertz panel for a 60 Hertz one, because hey, it's only a 55-inch, right? Wrong. See, in 2026, we have 3 distinct tiers. You have the junk tier, basically 2020 technology repackaged with a new year on the box. Avoid those, they're e-waste waiting to happen. Then you have the battleground tier, mini LEDs that are trying to burn your retinas out with brightness. And then at the top, the throne, the technology that for the last 5 years has been the answer to the question, what TV should I buy? This is the LG C5. And look, if you just want me to tell you what to buy so you can close this video and go on with your life, this is it. It's the benchmark. It's the control group against which every other slab of glass is measured. Why? Because of how it makes light, or rather, how it doesn't. OLED, organic light emitting diode. Every single pixel turns itself on and off. There is no backlight, there is no zone trying to dim itself. When a pixel is black, it is off, it is dead. That creates infinite contrast. And in a world of marketing lies, infinite is one of the few words that actually means what it says here. But, and there is a massive but coming, buying an OLED in 2026 isn't the slam dunk it was 3 years ago. Let's talk about the regret factor here. Because people buy this TV, they set it up, and for the first month they are in heaven. Then summer rolls around. This is the Achilles heel. The C5 is brighter than the C4. LG claims about 850, maybe 900 nits in real scenes. But against the raw power of the sun, it loses. If you are the sun-soaked streamer, if you watch football at 1 p.m. in a room with south-facing windows, you are going to regret this purchase. You'll be squinting, you'll be closing blinds, you'll become a vampire just to watch the bear. However, if you can control your light, if you have curtains, it's unbeatable. And for my gamers out there, specifically if you manage to snag a PS5 Pro or you're running a high-end PC rig, this is where the C5 stops being a TV and starts being a cheat code. This right here is why the C5 keeps its crown. 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. You may think, Chris, I only have one console, who cares? You care. Because eARC, the port you need for your soundbar, takes up one of those slots. On cheaper TVs, and we'll get to the Sony in a minute, oh boy, they only give you 2 high-speed ports. So if you have a soundbar and a PS5, you're full. You want to add an Xbox? Tough luck. You want to plug in a PC? get a splitter. On the C5, you have bandwidth to spare. All 4 ports support 4K at 144 Hz. It supports G-Sync for you PC nerds. It supports VRR so your games don't tear. It just works. You plug it in, the TV shakes hands with the console, and you never think about it again. That is the definition of functionality. The software? WebOS 25. It's fine, it's snappy enough. The new processor handles the menus without that jagged stutter we saw on the C3, but the ads? Yeah, they're still there. You spent $1,200 to look at a Tide ad. Welcome to the future. So here is the provisional score for the LG C5. It's a 92. It's the no regret option for 80% of you, but that missing 8 points? That comes from the fear, the burn-in anxiety. OLEDs use organic material. They degrade. If you watch CNN for 12 hours a day, every day for 5 years, you will see a ghost of that ticker at the bottom of your screen. Modern tech has made this way harder to do. Pixel shifting, logo dimming, but the physics haven't changed. If you are the type of person who leaves the TV on for the dog while you're at work, don't buy this. You'll worry about it constantly, and anxiety is a form of buyer's regret. Okay, so the C5 is the safe play. It's the Toyota Camry of high-end TVs. Reliable, excellent, maybe a little boring because everyone has one, but I know a lot of you are looking at very specific setups. Maybe you're trying to build a simulator rig. Maybe you're looking for a TV for your parents who still watch cable news 24/7. Do me a favor. Drop a comment below right now. I'm building out the testing calendar for the next 3 months, and I want to buy the stuff you actually need, not the stuff the algorithm thinks is cool. Seriously, leave a comment. I read them. Now, what if you want the blacks of an OLED, but you want them to punch you in the face with color? What if you look at the LG C5 and think, it's a little polite? Enter the challenger. The Samsung S95F. This is QD-OLED, quantum dot OLED. Samsung took the OLED tech and slapped a layer of quantum dots on it to boost the color volume. And I have to admit, side by side, the Samsung looks better to the average eye. It's brighter, the colors are purer. In a semi-bright room, this thing holds up way better than the LG because it has more raw luminance to throw at you. But we are here to talk about regret, and the Samsung S95F has a few skeletons in the closet that you won't find on the spec sheet. First regret? No Dolby Vision. Samsung is in a petty war with Dolby, so they refuse to support the industry-standard dynamic HDR format. Instead, they use HDR10+. Does this matter? Look, 90% of the high-end content on Netflix and Disney Plus is mastered in Dolby Vision. When you play it on a Samsung, the TV has to do a tone matte conversion. It still looks great, but you always have that nagging feeling in the back of your head. Am I seeing what the director intended? If you are a cinema purist, that omission is going to itch. It's going to annoy you. Second regret, the OS. Tizen is heavy. It feels like it's trying to do too much. It wants to be your smart home hub, your workout tracker, your cloud gaming console. And sometimes you just want to change the input to HDMI 2, but you have to navigate through a hub to do it. It's friction. And over 2 years, friction turns into frustration. And here's the weird physical quirk. QD-OLED panels lack a polarizer. That means if you have ambient light in your room, the blacks rise. They don't look black anymore, they look deep purple. It sounds nitpicky, but you're spending $1,600 here. You're paying a premium over the LG. If your black bars on a movie look purple during the day, you're going to feel that sting in your wallet. Its score is an 84. It is a Ferrari. It's fast, it's flashy, it's incredibly impressive to show your friends. But like a Ferrari, it's quirky. You have to live with the lack of Dolby Vision. You have to live with the weird OS. If you are a picture quality snob who values color volume over accuracy, buy it. You'll love it. But for the average person, the LG C5 is just easier to live with. But what if you don't want to baby your TV? What if you have kids who leave Fortnite on the pause menu for 6 hours? What if your living room is essentially a greenhouse? You can't buy OLED. You just can't. You need a light cannon. This is where we leave organic pixels behind and enter the world of mini LED, and specifically the Sony tax. Sony is fascinating. On paper, you look at the specs of the Bravia 7 and you laugh. Wait, Chris, this costs $1,400 and it has fewer dimming zones than the $800 Hisense? Yes, it does. But specs are for losers who don't watch TV. This is what you are paying for, the processor, the XR processor. Sony's upscaling is magic. If you watch cable, if you watch sports on YouTube TV, if you watch old DVDs, the Sony makes them look 4K. The other brands, they just stretch the image and hope for the best. But the regret with Sony is almost always about the hardware limitations. Here we go again. The year is 2026 and Sony still only gives us 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, and one of them is the audio return channel. So you plug in your Sonos Arc, boom, you have one port left for high-speed gaming. You have a PS5 and an Xbox, you're swapping cables like a caveman. For a premium TV, that is insulting. Also, blooming. Because this is mini LED, it relies on zones. Sony prioritizes shadow detail, which means they let a little bit of light leak, blooming, to make sure you can see the stars. Some people hate this. They see that halo and they think defective. It's not defective, it's physics. But coming from an OLED, it looks like a step backward. So, who is this for? This is for the dad TV. If you watch sports, cable news, and movies in a bright room and you don't want to babysit your screen, the Sony Bravia 7 is the king. It will last 10 years. It won't burn in. The motion processing for sports is untouchable. The ball never blurs. It scores higher than the Samsung, not because the picture is better, it's not, but because it is easier. It respects your time. But that price, oof, you are paying a $400 premium just for the logo and the processor. Is that worth it? Well, to answer that, we have to look at the brands that are trying to kill Sony by offering 90% of the performance for 50% of the price. This is where the real gambling begins. Welcome to the casino. If you don't have $1,400 for the Sony or you're terrified of OLED burn-in, you end up here, the value tier. This is where Hisense and TCL live. And let me be crystal clear, these companies are trying to buy your love with numbers. Big, stupid numbers. 5,000 nits, 20,000 dimming zones, 144 Hz Pro game mode. On paper, these TVs embarrass the Sony Bravia 7. They have double the brightness, double the zones, and they cost $400 less. It seems like a math error. It seems like Sony is scamming you. But numbers don't tell you about the ghost. This is the Hisense U8 series, and for the last 3 years, Hisense has been the king of the spec sheet. They pack so much hardware into these panels, it's actually insane. But their processing, it's aggressive. To get those ink-deep blacks, the TV turns off the backlight zones instantly. But when a bright object moves fast, the zones can't turn back on fast enough. It creates this weird smearing effect. We call it inverse ghosting or red ghosting. If you play Call of Duty or Apex, you will feel like you're drunk. The motion just feels sticky. And then there's the panel lottery. This is the dirty little secret of the budget tier. When you buy a Sony or an LG, the variance between Unit A and Unit B is tiny. When you buy a Hisense, you might get a perfect panel, or you might get one with what we call the dirty screen effect. See those bars? That's uneven backlight uniformity. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every time the camera pans over a blue sky or a football field, you'll see those faint jail bars. And the manufacturer, they'll tell you it's within spec. So Hisense is high risk, high reward. If you win the lottery, you get a $2,000 picture for $800. If you lose, you're boxing it back up and driving to the store. Then you have TCL, the QM8 series. TCL is a little different. They are the brightness bullies. This TV is so bright it should come with SPF 50. I measured over 5,000 nits on a 10% window. That is not a TV, that is a tanning bed. If you have a living room with floor-to-ceiling windows and no curtains, this is the only TV that fights back.
The sun hits the screen and the screen punches the sun in the face. But TCL's local dimming is a little too good. It's paranoid. It's so afraid of blooming, that halo effect, that it crushes shadow detail. We call this black crush. The TV sees a dark gray rock and thinks, let's just make it black. You lose the texture, you lose the detail. Is it a deal breaker? For a cinephile, yes. For a guy who just wants to watch football and blow stuff up in 4K, absolutely not. Here's the breakdown between these two. If you are a gamer, buy TCL. The motion is cleaner, the game mode is less buggy, and it supports 144 Hz without turning your gun into a red smear. If you are a movie watcher on a budget, take the gamble on the Hisense. Its processing is slightly more cinematic than TCL, and if you get a good panel, it looks remarkably close to the Sony for half the price. But wait, I know what you're thinking. Chris, those are still like $800, $900 TVs. I saw a Samsung at Walmart for $398. It says 4K, it says Crystal UHD. Why can't I just get that? Stop. Put the box down. Step away from the palette. This is the regret trap. These are edge-lit TVs. See all the TVs we just talked about? OLED, mini LED, they have light coming from behind the screen. These cheap ones, they have a strip of LEDs along the bottom edge, trying to light up the whole screen like a flashlight under a bedsheet. It looks terrible. The contrast is non-existent. Black looks like gray soup. And the refresh rate? 60 Hz. If you buy this TV, you are locking yourself into 2018 technology for the next 5 years. You cannot play PS5 games at high frame rates. You cannot watch dark movies without seeing gray clouds. But Chris, it's Samsung. It's a good brand. They are banking on that. They are banking on you seeing the logo and assuming quality. But a $400 Samsung is worse than a $400 TCL. Why? Because for $400, TCL will at least give you direct lit LEDs. They aren't great, but they aren't this edge-lit garbage. Do not buy the entry-level models from the big three, Sony, Samsung, LG. They are traps. Okay, we've covered the high-end OLED, the safe bet Sony, the gamblers Hisense and TCL, and the traps, the entry-level. But there is one more category, the weird middle, the TV that nobody talks about but might actually be the smartest buy in 2026 if you have a very specific living room, the Samsung The Frame and its matte screen clones. I used to hate these things. It's not a TV, it's a picture frame. But in 2026, the matte coating tech has gotten frighteningly good. If you are putting a TV above a fireplace, please don't. My neck hurts just thinking about it, but if you must, or in a room with skylights, glare is your enemy. OLED dies in glare. Mini LEDs fights glare with brightness, but matte screens delete glare. The picture quality, it's a solid 7 out of 10. It's not amazing, but if the alternative is seeing the reflection of your window instead of the movie, a 7 out of 10 image you can see is better than a 10 out of 10 image you can't. So where does that leave us? We've looked at the perfect blacks of the OLED, the brute force of the mini LEDs, and the absolute garbage fire of the entry-level traps, and right now you are probably feeling something called analysis paralysis. You're thinking, Chris, the LG might burn in, the Hisense might have ghosting, the Sony is too expensive, the Samsung has no Dolby Vision, everything sucks. Welcome to the consumer tech industry. They design it this way. They want you confused so you just give up and buy the one with the coolest box art.
But we are not going to do that. We are going to make a decision based on how you actually live your life, not how a marketing team imagines you live it. Here are my 3 definitive, no-regret verdicts for 2026. Verdict number 1, the set it and forget it winner. If you are a normal person, you watch Netflix, you play some games, you want the picture to look expensive, just buy the LG C5. I know, it's the boring answer, it's the vanilla answer, but it's the answer that doesn't result in phone calls to tech support. The 4 HDMI 2.1 ports mean you are future-proof for the next console generation. The black levels are perfect, and unless you live in a literal greenhouse, the brightness is fine. Pay the $1,200, cry once, enjoy it for 7 years. Verdict number 2, the sunlight winner. If your living room has windows that you refuse to cover, or if you primarily watch football on Sunday afternoons, do not buy the OLED. You will hate it. Buy the Hisense U8 or the TCL QM8. Yes, it's a gamble on quality control. Yes, the menus are a little janky. But for $800, you are getting a light cannon that physically overpowers the sun. Just do me one favor. Buy it from a place with a good return policy. Unbox it immediately, check for dead pixels, check for the dirty screen effect. If it's clean, you just got a $2,000 picture for $800. Verdict number 3, the dad winner. If you still watch cable, if you watch sports on YouTube TV, if you have a massive DVD collection, buy the Sony Bravia 7 or Bravia 8. The upscaling is the secret sauce. LG and Samsung still struggle to make 720p cable look good. Sony makes it look native 4K. It's sorcery. You pay the Sony tax for the processor, not the panel. But if you hate jittery motion and blocky faces, it is worth every single penny. And finally, the please God no verdict. If you have $400 to spend, do not buy a new entry-level TV from Samsung, Sony, or LG. You're paying for the badge, and they're selling you e-waste. If your budget is $400, buy a high-end model from 3 years ago used, or buy the TCL 5 series. Do not let a salesman talk you into an edge-lit TV in 2026. Friends don't let friends buy edge-lit.
Before I go, I need to drop one final truth bomb on you. The Smart TV interface, WebOS, Tizen, Google TV, is not a feature. It is a data harvesting tool. These manufacturers are selling the hardware at razor-thin margins because they plan to make money selling your viewing habits to advertisers for the next 5 years. That is why the TV gets slower. That is why the ads get bigger. So here is the ultimate cheat code to avoiding regret. Don't use the Smart TV features. Buy the TV for the panel. Treat it like a dumb monitor. Buy an Apple TV 4K. Buy an NVIDIA Shield. Buy a Roku stick. Plug it into HDMI 1. And never, ever connect your TV's native Wi-Fi to the internet. If you keep the TV offline, it can't download updates that slow it down. It can't serve you ads. It just displays the picture. It stays fast forever. All right, that's it. That's the list. Now, because model numbers in 2026 are a nightmare, Samsung literally sells 2 different TVs with the same name but different panels. I have put the exact links to the specific panel versions I tested in the description below. Those links go to the vetted listings. If you click them, I might get a small kickback, but it costs you nothing, and it ensures you aren't accidentally buying the holiday bundle version that has fewer dimming zones. If this saved you money, or at least saved you from a headache, hit that like button. I'm Chris Walker. Don't buy junk. I'll see you in the next one.